Well, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to PBALC's Literacy Speaking live stream. It's our last one of the year, so we are so excited today to welcome author Anna Johnston as she discusses her book, The Borrowed Life of Frederick Fife. I hope I'm saying his name correctly. We are so happy to have you, Anna,
I'm
all the way
delighted to be
from England.
Yes, I'm an Australian, but I'm traveling in England at the moment.
Well, thank you so much for joining us today. And why don't you start by kind of introducing yourself and telling our viewers a little bit about yourself?
Well, thank you so much for having me. It's a real delight to connect with readers. I'm a former baby, an aspiring octogenarian, and an Australian author with the love for the heartfelt and hilarious. I began my career in medical school, and I almost became a doctor like my wonderful dad, but about halfway through, I took a bit of a plot twist of my own, and I followed my heart into my grandfather's nursing home, where I became the social support coordinator so that we could spend more time together. After that time that we had, it was such a special time as we ate lunch together every day. I wheeled him down the hall and we sang songs. And after having children, unfortunately, I had an injury and could no longer go back to aged care, which is why I then began to write about it, channeling my love for older people onto the page. And the protagonist of the book is inspired by my grandfather, Fred.
Wow. And so you answered the question on what inspired you to write the book. And so, but how did you develop the other characters? I know Frederick is kind of inspired by your grandpa, but what about the other characters? Because there are some very unique characters in the book.
Well, yes, it all started with Fred. And I think, what is central to the plot is his unconditional kindness. So that's kind of where the story took root. And I'll talk about the other characters in a minute, but the seed of inspiration came sort of years after my grandfather had passed away, and I went back to the nursing home where I worked to introduce my former colleagues to my newborn baby. Mm-hmm. And one of his former carers took me aside, and she showed me the inside of her locker, and inside was taped a photo of my grandfather from years ago. And she said, I keep his photo there because he reminds me to be kind to other people no matter what. And I thought, that's the kind of protagonist I want to write about, that he's this protagonist with his superpower of being kind in any situation. And so it probably comes as no surprise that Dawn was my actual grandmother. Mm-hmm. However, the story of my grandparents, even though their names went to the characters of Fred and Dawn, their actual real life story was very similar to Albert and Val, with my grandfather had dementia, living in the nursing home, and my grandmother coming to visit him. So those characters were really inspired by their love story and by that very tricky relationship of, one partner with Alzheimer's and the other one coming to visit them in the care home. The other characters were pretty much made up, but obviously I drew on some of the people that I had met in aged care, and also, myself as well, and, sort of put together this cast. I've always really been fascinated by cases of mistaken identity.
Yeah.
And the real life occurrence of doppelgangers. Mm-hmm. And I also wanted to explore the invisibility that comes in aged care. And I actually saw, new staff mixing up residents, like actually, two men that looked vaguely similar, would often be mistaken for one another. So that's kind of where the seed of the story developed.
I'm watching a series right now. The name, I can't remember the name of it, but it talks about a detective that she made up this character, and it turns out there was a doppelganger that was very similar looking to her, and it's a murder mystery kind of thing. But yeah, doppelganger is, there are doppelgangers out there in the world.
Really are.
So
Apparently
so weird when you come across them.
Yes, absolutely.
And also, I want you to touch on too, more of like kind of the research that you did for this book, but also about, you touch briefly in the book about, some of the challenges that senior citizens face, and the elderly are sometimes overlooked, and their challenges are overlooked. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Absolutely. So I was really blessed to grow up with all four of my grandparents. I was extremely close to all of them. And even my great-grandfather actually lived with us when I was a child. So from a very young age, I became very comfortable around older people. In fact, I related to them more probably than people my own age.
Yeah, same here.
I love the same music that they listen to. And I think, that was partly why I was drawn into aged care. Like, I ended up leaving medicine because I just was so drawn to work with the elderly. And it was just my passion. Like, I absolutely loved being there. But I did witness this invisibility that comes as you age, and not even, in older age, but I think, as like women in particular, as you get older, you seem to become a little bit more invisible. That's kind of the way society goes. And, there's a line in the book that sort of says, when you get older, you don't feel any different, but it's as though you fade away, like a Polaroid picture in reverse. Mm-hmm. So I really wanted to explore that on the page. It's also something my second book really explores about, how society perceives aging and how they perceive older people. I'm a passionate positive aging advocate. So a lot of the talks I do are about, trying to challenge society's views on aging and the language that we use around aging, because, as we know, we all have an aging population. There are increasing rates of dementia because of that. And I think, it's something that we have to start getting comfortable talking more about and taking more seriously.
And how we take care of our elderly, right?
Absolutely.
In many cultures, you take care of your elderly. They move in with you. And so America is not, they go into nursing homes and things like that. But I loved how in the book you describe all the shenanigans that they get into at the nursing home, and I love the caretakers there at the nursing home that try to make their lives, the senior citizens that are in the nursing home, try to make their lives, more fun and active and things like that.
Yes. Yeah. Absolutely. It's so important that, having a sense of purpose throughout any stage of your life is just so important.
Exactly. So tell us a little bit more about the book, and then if you would read a selection for our viewers.
Absolutely. What would you like to know about the book?
So I know it was inspired by Grandpa, but how did you incorporate, the granddaughter into it, and how did that come into play?
It really,
I guess the daughter.
I think, they talk about in writing, you're either a plotter who plots every single point, or you're a pantser, which is a fly by the seat of your pants. I'm sort of somewhere in between. So I think I had like these major pillars of the story, like I knew how it wanted to end. But then for me, writing is a lot about discovery. And so, you'll be writing and you'll think of an idea, or you'll be at the supermarket and you'll think, yes, that's the idea I need. So I think it really just developed bit by bit. I'm also a major...
Did you find the writing process difficult? Because I know you majored you're initially majoring in medical field, so that's very different than
yes,
writing and literature.
I've always loved writing, but my love for writing kind of came from the theatre. So when I was 5 years old, my best friend and I, rather than playing Legos and Barbies, we would write and perform plays, sometimes very, very long plays, patient parents. And I loved writing through high school, but I always had wanted to be a doctor like my dad. So I went down that path. But then during the pandemic, I sort of decided to take a couple of casual online writing courses, and it kind of then grew from there. So I wrote the book during the pandemic. And then I was very, very lucky in my publication journey. Things sort of just fell into place. And so, yeah, it kind of grew from there.
So you find it enjoyable, the whole part of writing, you find it enjoyable?
Some of it's enjoyable. Some of it is really hard. It's like some of the, the editing can be really hard. And some days you think there's no way that this is going to get done. Like, I just cannot see the end. And then eventually you do see the end a little bit. But it's very much a roller coaster. And one thing I've learned is how collaborative a book, the editing process is. So it's not just the author. It's also, the editors sort of saying, here's how we can make this stronger. Like, we need to remove that character or swap the order of these chapters or, delete that. So it's certainly a big learning process, but I'm very grateful, for my amazing publishing team that, they fix up all the grammar and everything. So it's been really
Did you
great.
share your ideas with friends and like, what do you think about this idea? Or do you think this
I have a little, my husband is my main sounding board, but he's a bit biased. But, I also formed a writing group when I did the online writing courses. And if there's any aspiring writers or writers out there, that's the number one piece of advice, is to find a group, even if it's a couple of people, because it's a bit like, exercising. If you've got someone to keep accountable to, you're much more likely to do it. And also just giving and receiving feedback on each other's work really helps you develop your own writing skills.
Wonderful. So can you read a selection now for us?
I can. So I'm going to be a bit boring and read from the start of the book, because I didn't want to sort of include any spoilers. So I'll begin. And this is the Americanized version. The single drop of pee made a pitiful splash. Fred sighed as he stood over the cracked toilet bowl that, like him, had seen better days. The public restrooms at Wattle River Reserve weren't as dirty as he'd feared, though the walls hosted a colourful array of ageing graffiti. Another couple of measly drips. Was there a job in the armed forces for people who could urinate in Morse code? If so, he'd be an ideal candidate, though it was unlikely they'd accept 82-year-olds. He glanced around the cubicle for something to distract his prostate. A watch pot never boils, after all. He didn't want to call Kaz for a good time, as some purple peeling writing on the windowsill suggested, and he was getting nowhere, so he zipped up and unlocked the stall door. The damp concrete toilet block was pretty roomy. Could he possibly sleep here tonight? Surely if he looked around, he could find somewhere a tad cosier that didn't smell like urinal cakes and lost dreams. His knobbly fingers protested as he rinsed them under the freezing tap water. The dryer was broken, so he made the most of his wet hands to smooth out his unruly mustache. A foggy mirror above the sink reflected blue eyes flanked by deep crow's feet. Not a bad price to pay for 8 decades of laughter. Well, 7 decades at least. Fred coughed. Grief's blunt force could still wind him on bad days. He shook it off and headed back outside to the river where he'd come to clear his mind. The welcome scent of eucalyptus filled his nostrils from the rows of sage-green gum trees lining the bank. It was the sound of the river that usually brought him peace. The monotonous babble could drown out whatever was rattling around the corners of his mind, but not today. Today's mental cacophony was too loud, even for the river. I'm sorry, but I gave you notice over 2 weeks ago, Fred. You've got to be packed and out of here by tonight, mate. His landlord's words from earlier this morning echoed in his ears. They hadn't been unkind. Fred hadn't been able to scrape together rent for months, but they'd meant business, and he had nowhere else to go. He'd rustled up some packing cartons, but they remained empty. How could you seal precious mementos in a box, not knowing when or if they would ever be reopened? It wasn't as though he had anywhere to store them. He was terrified that the memories would suffocate in their cardboard prison and that he would forget her. It was all too much, and his procrastinating feet had led him here. He kicked a fallen gumnut into the water, his eyes following its descent down the grassy bank. There, by the river's edge, sat a man about his own age, slumped in a wheelchair, an open bag of sliced bread at his side, now the prize of fighting seagulls. Hair the colour of aluminum foil waved carelessly in the breeze, with a matching, neatly trimmed moustache sitting below a substantial nose. The man's face tilted to the side, one large ear directed at the sky like a wrinkly satellite dish. His watery blue eyes, magnified behind thick round glasses, were slightly open and appeared to be squinting at something. Fred stepped closer. "Hello? You all right there, mate?" The lack of response alongside the stare, which was as vacant as Fred's flat would be tonight, said that he wasn't. Fred always took great joy in meeting new people, but usually they were alive.
Oh boy. A teaser there for sure if you haven't read the book. You have to figure out what happens next. And that also just brings up, we talked briefly about the challenges that senior citizens face. And one of them is, the financial challenges that occur. But this book, touches on that, but it also touches on second chances, right?
Absolutely.
Second chances for people.
Absolutely. Yeah. Redemption is a big part of the book.
Second chances, redemption, for not only Frederick, but for other characters in the book as well.
Absolutely.
Don't want to give too much away in case you haven't read it. And I wanted to let you know that this was the book, a book that has made me, I haven't had a book that has made me cry in a long time, and this one did, because it was just so heartwarming, and I just loved it.
I cried a lot while I was writing it too, if that helps. So I become very emotionally attached to the characters as well.
Yeah, it's so funny. And then, and then sometimes, a series or a movie will come out, and you're like, no, that's not what I imagined the character to be.
Yes.
So I'm going to keep the characters in my mind the way I like them. So what other projects or books are you currently working on, Anna?
So I am in the middle of finishing my second novel, When Lemons Give You Life, which will be out, I think, in early fall of next year.
Fiction or nonfiction?
Fiction. Yes. So that's, do you want the little spiel?
Yes, please tell us a little bit. What?
It's about Griff, who is a former Michelin star chef who is now retired and lives in a nursing home, grumpy and depressed. He's grieving. He no longer wants to be on this earth. And so he decides, he's determined that the nursing home mush will not be his last meal. So he breaks into the nursing home kitchen to cook himself a final lemon tart. But the act of cooking sort of stirs this long dormant joy in him, and a series of events follows. And yeah, it also involves his half sister Lisa, and it's about found family. It's about redemption. It's about love in all its messy form. So yeah, it was very fun to write because I got to eat and taste a lot of fancy food for research, having a protagonist as a Michelin star chef.
I love how your books are about, you create your own family. You can create your own family and friends. Yes, that's wonderful. And so when is that set to come out?
We haven't set the exact date, but I believe it will be about September of next year. So we're just in the final editing stages. And then my other project is that, as you probably heard, Frederick, Fife has been optioned by Netflix. And so,
oh no.
yeah,
I'm doing what I need. I don't know if I want to watch it or not.
so I'm not writing it. They have screenwriters to do that, but I am in collaboration with that a little bit, which is really nice. So that's a very exciting project as well.
Well, we'll be looking for both of those.
Yes.
I'm looking forward to it. And so, where can people get more information about you and the book and the books that will be coming out?
Sure. So I have my website, which is annajohnstonauthor.com. Johnston with a T, no E. My father still misspells it. I'm also on social media, Instagram at Anna Johnston Author, or Facebook, again, Anna Johnston Author, on all of those spaces. So yeah, I always love hearing from readers and, love seeing your reviews. So authors can't exist without readers.
Perfect. And so, because we ask all of our authors this, because we love reading here at PBALC, and we think it's an essential part of learning for literacy students, what are you currently reading? And give us some recommendations.
I'm currently reading a book by British author Mike Gale. It's The Man I Think I Know. It's really great. I think I've actually discovered a new favorite author in Mike Gale. He's also written one of my favorites, All the Lonely People. So if you like a book with an older protagonist. I also love, probably a lot of people have read or even seen the film of The Unlikely Pilgrimage of Harold Fry.
I've heard of it, but I haven't read the book yet.
That's a wonderful book, but not as many people know about the sequel, which is Maureen Fry and The Angel of the North. So if you have read Harold, I really encourage you to read Maureen. It's actually a novella. It's very short, but it's very beautiful in the way that it deals with grief and, that sort of transformation that can happen later in life. So yeah, anything Rachel Joyce writes or Mike Gale, highly recommend.
Perfect. Well, thank you again, Anna, for joining us this afternoon. I know you're on break, and thank you for taking out some time to join us today and talking about your book and the books that will be coming out soon. Make sure everyone and check her out on social media and her website. And her book is available anywhere books are sold, but we recommend going to your local library. Hopefully it's available there, or shopping on Bookshop or independent bookshops. If not, then I'm sure it's available on Amazon or Barnes & Noble or anywhere books are sold. Yes. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Anna, again for joining us. And we will... Absolutely. Thank you, everyone, for watching, and we'll see you again soon or later next year. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.